Now we're on to step 4, which is actually contacting these organizations. So I mean, we have all of this information. We have the, we were pulling out the names of the companies, we were pulling out their addresses, their fax numbers, their emails, or I'm sorry, their websites, telephone numbers, and people's names and so on. But when we have all this information, what is the most effective method for contacting this person within the organization? Now, mind you, and I'm going to ask the question to you, if you don't mind, but, and this is for an initial contact. So if you're going to contact this organization for the very first time, or this particular person for the very first time, of the different sources that would be available to you, and one of them, of course, would be, mailing something to them, snail mail. Another one would be faxing something to this person. Third thing would be emailing to that person, and the last thing being telephoning them. What would be your guess as far as what would be the most effective method or medium to contact them initially? And if you don't mind, we'll just do it by like a show of hands. The group here, the consensus is that the most effective way for an initial contact would be via telephone. And if you look up on the screen, telephone's actually fourth. It's the last. So number 1, believe it or not, is snail mail. It's direct mail going directly to that particular person. The second most effective way is actually faxing. And faxing is actually a very close number 2. It's very, very effective. A very distant number 3 is emailing. And a lot of people like to email. They think, oh, hey, we live in, in the internet generation. We should be emailing. But the reality is, and you probably can even attest to this yourself, people get so many emails. And once again, I'm talking about an initial contact. This is your very first contact with this person, not your 10th contact where you've had an established relationship with them. But email is actually very, very poor. Telephone is actually number 4. Telephone, it's your closest personal contact with the organization, or that person, I should say. You're actually talking to them on the phone. But why it's so ineffective, unfortunately, for the very first contact is just trying to get through the filters to actually talk to the person. The reality of actually getting through that screening agent, a receptionist or what have you, to talk to the person is almost impossible. Whenever you are doing a direct mail piece, there's certain things that you want to make sure that you do to make it effective. The very first thing is, and it really goes to the collecting of the information, the previous step, is you want to contact all of these organizations simultaneously. And when you contact them all at once, when you hit the marketplace that aggressively, it hits you back. With direct mail, you are totally and completely in charge of the message as it's being received. So you can pick what kind of paper, the color of the paper, the font, the printing, everything, including the envelope. So once again, you want to make sure that your packaging is good too, because it's really, of course, your first impression on that firm. In developing your direct mail campaign, you will want to individualize each cover letter and envelope to the specific person within each one of those companies. Now, that does not mean that you have to individually type 250 plus letters and envelopes. You'll want to use the mail merge feature on your word processor. And very, very quickly and easily, the word processor will take all of that information that you've collected, the names of the companies, the addresses, the names of the people, and it will insert it into each one of your letters for you. And of course, it will even do the salutations. So the very first letter might say, "Dear Mr. Smith," and the second letter might say, "Dear Mr. Jones." If you don't know how to use a mail merge, consult the help feature on your word processor, and once again, very, very easily, it will instruct you how to do that. You do not want to put a date onto the cover letters. The reason why you don't want to do that, we don't want the letters to become what we call stale. When you're signing your name, you want to sign your name in blue ink, not black. The reason for that, sometimes when you sign in black ink, it will look just like the printing on the page itself, and we don't want these letters to appear as though they've been processed. Blue ink will ensure to the reader that you've actually signed each one of your letters. And you'll want to staple the cover letter to the resume so that they will always remain together. Sometimes whenever we are contacting these people, you might be passed on or referred to another person within the organization, and we want to make sure that both the cover letter and resume stay intact. you don't want to put on a return address. And of course, that will defy everything you've ever been taught. Oh, you've got to put on a return address. Do not put on a return address. I mean, if anything with regard to this envelope, that's the first thing I would make sure that you do not do. And this is another key thing, but whenever you're mailing your documents to all these different people, it's best for them to be received Tuesday through Thursday. You don't want your letters and envelopes and resumes to be received on either Monday or Friday. Mondays are bad days because, number one, they're Mondays. It's usually the biggest mail day of the week. All the mail that's been collecting over the weekend and plus the Monday mail, that all comes in at one time. Most people are not very receptive on a Monday. I mean, they're usually coming into the office like, oh crap, I mean, I got to do all this stuff. I mean, it's, once again, Mondays are just not a good day. In fact, interestingly enough, statistically, there's more heart attacks on Monday than any other day of the week. So once again, you don't want to add to anyone's stress, or you don't want to be a part of that stress. So like I said, stay away from Mondays. But then Fridays are bad because when your documents are being received on a Friday, and once again, Fridays are not a day of action for most people. They might look, and even if you totally capture the person's attention, and they might say, wow, look at her, she looks incredible. I mean, this is exactly what I need. I'm going to give her a call on Monday. It decreases your opportunity for actually being called. So once again, you want the documents to be received Tuesday through Thursday. So think about your mailing out. If it's doing a localized search, chances are it's just going to be a 1 or 2 day mail time. So you might want to, after you collect everything, you prepared everything, and all of your resumes and cover letters and such, you may want to mail it on a Monday because then it'll probably be either received Tuesday or Wednesday. But if you're doing like a long distance search, let's say you're in North Carolina and you're interested in moving out to California, then try to, in fact, you can even call the post office and they can even give you an estimate of what the time would be. Oh, that will take 4 days or whatever it might be. But then use that as your estimate so that it will be received Tuesday through Thursday.
You can also contact these key individual decision makers within these firms through the fax too. And there are many advantages, one of them being it's just as effective as direct mail in generating interviews for you. Another thing, you have actually greater control of the timing. So you can specify, not only the day that it's going to be received, but even the time of the day. It's greener than direct mail, and as you can imagine, if you're developing a big campaign of 250 plus, you've got to print out resumes, you have to print out letters, you have envelopes, you have to get postage, even the fossil fuels that are required to deliver it. Faxing eliminates all of that. Now, some of the negatives are attaining fax numbers is a little bit more difficult than trying to get addresses and names and so on. So a lot of the sources may not have the fax numbers for the firms. And then, of course, and most importantly, you may not have the ability to do a fax.
I actually want you to print and individualize all of your cover letters to all of the companies that you researched, print all of your letters, resumes, and envelopes, and get everything prepared for that 250 or so organizations that and hopefully you're doing even more than that, but at least that number of organizations. So that's the homework for the next time. And for the next session, what we're going to be doing is actually getting you prepared on how to become an interviewing guru.